Hello, beautiful people. It's been a while. As you can see, I have a little one now. I think it's been about a year since I made a video. Kind of just jumped into it the last time I was making videos, but here I am back again. I want to talk about motherhood today. It has truly been a transformation, like a new beginning, a new me. I'm still figuring it out, but embarking on this journey of motherhood when I had so many problems with my mother and my upbringing and just how I grew up in general. It's kind of crazy, like bringing another person into this world and being responsible for them and everything, and actively making the choice to not repeat the same things that were done to you. I first got pregnant, or found out that I was pregnant. I was very scared, and I just always remember telling myself that I never wanted to have a girl. I had a girl. And my reasoning was like, I never wanted to have a girl because I knew how I was, and I knew all the emotions that I went through, the puberty that I went through, just the extensiveness of emotion. And for some reason I had this concept in my mind that having a boy, stop moving, baby, that having a boy was going to be so simple and so easy, and it wouldn't be as much work as it would be to have a girl. And thinking back on that idea is kind of crazy. Like, it's just as hard, it's just as complicated. You still have to go through the same things that you would teaching a girl. So it's just crazy that I thought that way, but it was just based on like fear and not I would just say the lack of relationship that I had with my mom, and like everything that I went through with her. I think it really pushed me to the point of like so scared that having a girl myself would repeat that process, or something bad would happen. Like those type of things, those natural thoughts and fears that come up when you think about certain traumas and things that you went through in the past. Finding out that we were having a girl, it was like silence. Like when the person said, "Oh, it's a girl," my heart dropped. And unfortunately, I wasn't happy. Like, it's just like a weird feeling that I can't express. It's not that I wasn't happy that, like, she's healthy and everything and nothing's wrong with her from that point when she was in my stomach still. Anyways, just the feeling that I felt when I found out that it was a girl. I don't regret feeling that way because I know why I felt that way. It was just like a bittersweet moment. And it was really difficult to accept. But once I hopped on the train, it's like, okay, like, I can't, there's nothing I can do about it at this point, you know? I started to definitely, like, okay, it's time to keep going on the healing journey of healing your traumas and redoing things and reprogramming your mind and your thoughts and the things that you thought were good, the things that you thought were bad, you know, like just going within to cleanse out everything that I know is not going to be beneficial for her and beneficial for me either. It was such a hard process because, like, being pregnant, I was literally like knocked off my feet. I was literally knocked off my feet. I was bedridden. I was so sick. I lost a bunch of weight. Um, Typically, when you're pregnant, you gain weight, and you know, I'm already on the heavier side, so was like, okay, I'm about to be gaining more weight. I need to be conscious of that. But I lost so much weight because of how sick I was, and it was honestly hard, and I hated it. I hated every part of it. Um, my husband really had to like take care of me. Like, I was in the bed all day, every day, throwing up almost all day. I was barely eating. I was barely drinking anything. Um, it was very rough for me. In the beginning, I did, you know, get back on my feet a little bit and started getting better, but it was really hard. The beginning, the first, I'll say first and second trimester, I was very sick. And being in the bed constantly and not going outside, not interacting with people. We had also moved. We also moved here to a new state away from where we were, and not knowing anybody, being in a new environment, and then being stuck in the house, stuck in the bed, really, constantly, and then constantly being sick and stuff like that. It really took a mental toll on me, and I kind of fell like into like a depression, somewhat, and not somewhat. That's really what it was. I fell into a depression, and all the thoughts of unworthiness and like all the thoughts of the trauma that I went through with my mom and constantly worrying, thinking about what's going to happen to my daughter and how I'm going to raise her and what I'm going to do with her, and what if our relationship ends up like how my mom and our relationship. And I just began to go into a spiral down of emotions and thoughts and contemplations and worries. And it really, like, thinking back on it now, I was like in a dark cocoon, and it was like I had like mentally trapped myself there, and it was very difficult to get out of. But it's something that I've been taught, and it's something that I've always done when a situation doesn't go the way I think it should go, or it's a situation that's not like something joyous. Not that finding out that I was pregnant was not joyous. It was just very unexpected, and it was really bad timing. However, I think looking back on it now, is definitely a great. I don't regret it, but as I began to feel better and not be constantly throwing up. And I was able to get out of the bed and walk around, and I was able to feed myself again and start eating again. I slowly had to um, climb out of that dark cocoon of thoughts and feelings and emotions and traumas and reflection and all those things that was going on within me. I had to begin the process of getting out of that, because I knew that being in that, they say like you worry the baby, it stresses the baby out. If you're stressed, the baby feels what you feel, pretty much. And I was like, I've always told myself that I'm the black sheep of my family, and that I'm going to be the one to transform and do things differently. And so it was kind of like, well, why is that different now? Why do you have to go back into the same thing that you've always done? It's time to confront the challenge head on and overcome it. And so, slowly but surely, I got better, started being able to take care of myself again, and just started like reprogramming my thoughts, reprogramming my mind, and my perspective, just reconstructing that and redoing it and rethinking. And then I began to have like the talks with my husband, like how we want to raise her, what boundaries we want to set with family, and just, all the things that entail parenting and protecting your child. We begin to have those back and forth conversations almost every day of deciding, the path that we're going to take with raising her. And my husband's had a traumatic past as well as I. His was just very different. And so we just had to like merge both of our ideas of traumas and things that we experience, and what we don't want her to experience, and what we want to raise her like, and how we want things to be different for her. So that was like a whole process and a whole deep dive back into remembering the traumas and remembering the things that my mother did to me, and remembering how my childhood went. It was definitely very dark. I did have some great moments, so it was sometimes I remember the good things that I want to pass down to her, and or talk to her about. Not that pass down to her, but it was a roller coaster, pretty much. But once we, got our ideas down and what we wanted and got on the same page, we're very good with that. Compromising and communicating. I've set that plan in stone, and, there's no handbook and there's no definitive way of doing things, because, kids surprise you and life surprises you and things happen, and you kind of take things as you go, but you do also want to have a foundation. And, we were able to come together and compromise and develop a foundation of what we want to do for our daughter, so that she has a better life, and it's not just a better life and like, not being homeless and not going through like physical things, but allowing her to have as much as trauma-free life as possible, because it's not healthy. And it's kind of like a back and forth, because, the trauma that my husband and I experienced definitely made us who we are, and made us stronger, and made us, kind of thicker skin and stuff like that. It taught us certain lessons that other thing, like that just saying it couldn't have taught us. And so it's like accepting that she's not going to learn those things, but we can definitely tell her about it. But I would rather be able to just tell her about it and her not comprehend it than to allow her to experience the same thing, just because it'll make her thicker skinned or make her more susceptible, not susceptible, but more understanding of hardships and things like that. I don't want that for her. And so going back to this cocoon, as I was coming out of the darkness and the depression and the sadness and things like that and the reflection, I began to realize that I was no longer going to be who I knew I was. And that concept was really hard for me for a little period of time. And it kind of put me in this feeling of limbo, like I don't know who I am yet, because I'm in this limbo phase of I'm about to have a daughter, but I don't have a daughter yet, and I don't know what that experience is like yet. But then I'm also not who I was because of this process that I'm going through of giving birth to new life, and just opening up that portal between the divine and yourself inside of your womb to create life. It was definitely a different process, and I was no longer who I always knew I was, or thought I was, shall I say. And that was such a hard concept for me to grasp, and I really struggled with it for a while. But I was able to just realize that everybody has their different beliefs, but I came into the new understanding that kids choose their parents, and whoever they are before they came here to have a human experience, they choose what they want to go through, what they want to experience, who they want to experience it with. And I was always grateful that she chose us. And I would say that was the thing that pushed me forward to getting through those thoughts of I don't know who I am, and I don't know who I am right now, and I don't know who I'm going to be because I haven't experienced this process of giving birth before, and I'm in this limbo phase. But knowing that she chose us and that I was creating with the universe to bring this life gave me this renewed feeling, and I just began to think of a butterfly and the cocoon, how they start off in the cocoon and then they slowly become, it's the slow growing process to becoming the butterfly. And I felt once I gave birth and I experienced her presence and experienced the new feeling and the task and duties of handling her would be my butterfly moment. And it definitely was that. It definitely was that. I'm still figuring everything out because nothing's definitive. Everything's always flowing and going different directions, and it just, nothing's definitive. And so I'm definitely going with the flow of everything. But this process definitely was starting off in the cocoon and then into the butterfly. But that was just always the message that kept resonating with me as I was going through this. And because we had moved from where we were and this is a new environment, I didn't have like the health insurance and things like that all set up and together. And so figuring that process out was very difficult, very hard. And I had always known that I wanted to have a water birth even before, getting pregnant and things like that. I always told my husband, like, I'm going to have a water birth because the beauty in just allowing the natural flow of your body to birth and bring in life without an interrupted process of so many people, so many interventions, so much medical this, medical that. Giving birth is not a medical procedure. It's a natural thing that's done, and it's been done for centuries and decades and all that. It's been done, and before there were even hospitals, it's been done. So I've very much resonated with the process of being as natural as possible. No interventions, no excessive medical things and all. I wasn't into that. I wanted everything to be natural. And, that may offend some people or whatever, but that was just me, my thoughts, and how I viewed it. I was able to find a birth center and, get into that process. And it was just I'll probably do a separate video on this, but the process of giving birth was so surreal and beautiful and mind-boggling. And I was just so surprised at how wrong and the perception of birth is. It was so crazy to me that all my life, like, I've been told, like, oh my gosh, your birth hurts, you better get that epidural, you better, get the pain meds, and it hurts so much, and all these things like that. That just wasn't my experience. Now, okay, I won't say that completely. Contractions, early labor contractions before, you go into the transition of the active birth, that was a little hard because I was in early labor for 4 days, and it did hurt, but it wasn't unbearable. It was for sure a mental battle of allowing each contraction to just flow and freely move and not alter, is that the right word to use? To not distort your view and to not create like a blockage of the flow of the contraction. I definitely was into like hypnobirthing and all the things like that, and getting your mental together so that you can breathe through the contractions and get through the contractions. And it was beautiful for the first 2 days, but once it hit day 3 and 4, oh my gosh, it wasn't even. It was a little painful, but it was just the back to back and the length and the lack of sleep. The lack of sleep really messes with your brain. And, breathing through the contractions and getting through them constantly, and then trying to let them flow and trying to let it pass. After a while of not sleeping, you kind of get a little crazy and a little woozy. The basic thing was the mental battle. Day 4, day 3, I was really contemplating on giving up, because I was like, it's been 3 days, 3 whole days. But, with the constant communication with my husband of like how I want everything to go, he was that guidance and that rock of like, no, this is what you wanted. This is how it's going to go. This is what you wanted. And that reassurance and that just new burst of energy of like, no, this is the process, and you're just tired. You're just not thinking right because of how tired you are. So going through that was a little rough mentally, which transformed into physically a little bit. But going into the actual active labor, that process was so easy, so free flowing, so transformative. The craziness of like, it's not even craziness because it's so natural, but just letting go of these ideas in your head and just trusting your body to just do what it does naturally and free flowingly. It was such a beautiful process, and it was so easy and so effortless. And although there were times where I kind of like tensed up a little bit and things like that, I just kept repeating my affirmations to myself. Like, I trust my body. I'm co-creating with the universe. I'm bringing a new life. This is flowing, and just giving those affirmations back to myself. If in any moments where, your mind and your ego and those doubts creep up back into you, and in those moments, and just releasing them. And then finally just finishing that process off, and her coming into the world. It was a very much an undescribable feeling, but it was definitely a great feeling. And it also felt very surreal. It felt very surreal. Like, this is crazy. Like, this being just came out of my fucking vagina. Like, it was crazy, but it was so amazing. And it was free flowing. It wasn't painful at all. It was very beautiful. And I just could think like, how do women not want to experience this? And now there are some pregnancies that do need the medical intervention, and they do need more special attention and more processes and procedures so that the baby is delivered safely. Those, I'm not going against that or anything, but just imagining if the medical world didn't push this idea, or Hollywood didn't push this idea. I won't even say Hollywood, I'll just say movies. Movies didn't push this idea of that, like, birth is this screaming forever process and full of pain and just craziness. And women always complain of like, oh my gosh, it's so painful, birth and all these things like that. And listening to other people and listening to people in the past, it's never like an accurate description, which is the crazy part. All I could say is all the things that I knew, or not knew, all the things that I was told and saw was nothing even comparable to the actual process at all. No, not the screaming, not the, oh, my water broke and the baby's rushing out. And it's not that. It's not that at all. But I would, however, definitely become an advocate for women to have more women to have natural births, a water birth outside of the water. The water was great. The water actually like pushed me into labor quicker because just from the relaxation in it. But I'll definitely have a whole conversation on my whole water birth process because it was amazing. It was very great. I'm excited to be on this journey now. I'm excited to discover the new me of being a mother and mothering this beautiful little girl. She's doing so much already. It's freaking crazy. Breastfeeding is, that's a whole process too. But it's so beautiful to be able to nourish your child in the way of just like giving, almost like giving a piece of you constantly to them, to nourish them, for them to grow. It's such a beautiful process. I just admire like how the universe and source and God just created this natural process of like birthing them, coming into the world, and then you parenting, mothering them. It's so beautiful. And as a person who's always been very connected to kids and like always wanting to be an inspiration to them and be a guidance and a light to kids, and I don't know, it's definitely a different feeling having your own, because like I have all this knowledge of when I watch kids and took care of babies and all things like that. So that wasn't too much for me to learn because I had already, been taking care of babies and kids and things like that from a young age. It's just different. And I don't know how to explain it in English. Other than just feeling the feeling of it and knowing what that feeling is. I just can't describe it to you guys. But I'm excited to go on this new path, new journey that I was never taught, that I don't know, and that's unknown. And I've unfortunately inherited this passed down feeling of fearing the unknown, fearing what I don't know, fearing things that you hear about that you just don't know about. Unfortunately, I've received that I don't even know what to call it. Unfortunately, I have received that from my family. It's been taught to me, instilled in me, constantly beaten down into me, that you shouldn't do that because it's not this, you shouldn't do that, when it's really just fear of the unknown. And I'm so like, I've really very much committed to letting go of those fears and just accepting that even though it's unknown, like you can't define what something is if you don't know what it is. And instead of running from something that you don't know, going in and learning what it is. And then gaining more knowledge. I love to gain knowledge. And then gaining more knowledge from accepting and trying to learn something that you don't know. That's such a beautiful thing. Highly underrated. But yeah, motherhood. Going from a deep, dark depression cocoon to flourishing into a butterfly and creating a human being. She's so precious. And sometimes I just look at her and like, it's so crazy. Like, I created you. You chose me and your father, and just how much I want to protect her and teach her so much. Like, I'm very much a teacher. Like, all I can think of is all the things I want to tell her, all the quotes and all the life lessons. All the life lessons that she can learn. Dang it, I'm gonna cry. Anyways, I've definitely felt the new energy and just this new creative power that's coming down from this new era. I do enjoy sharing my knowledge and sharing my experience and what I've learned from it to help other people. And I'm definitely ready to operate more in my creativeness and follow my dreams and my passions, and not be stuck in the monotony of doing the same thing constantly every day, this time, this way, back to back to back. I really hate that. Okay, well, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.